Good evening, folks. Councilman Mike Rasmussen here, coming to you with my update from our council meeting this evening on Tuesday, January 18th. I also realized that our first meeting of the year, Monday the 3rd, I didn't post an update from that, so I'll jump in and I'll cover the things that I missed, and I apologize for not being on the ball on that one. Um, so for tonight's meeting, we're back on Zoom, as folks might know, so it might be a little bit easier for some people to watch with the COVID surge and folks going through sort of dealing with that, and it's been a little bit easier and more productive. I actually found out today I have my first COVID positive, which fortunately I feel fine, and my son has it as well. We both had exposures, I guess, about a week ago. Didn't even know it, and but everybody's happy and healthy at the moment. So better for us because we would be missing the meetings anyway. So tonight's Zoom meeting, not a lot of things on our agenda. The I'll actually the first piece, which we had old business for this month, but was new business at the first meeting. Um, the town is implementing a new ordinance to update our impact fees. So we did an impact fee study recently to look at what our costs are associated with all of the things that we provide for or during development. So that is all of the planning, the zoning, the plan review, the work that goes in from our team around doing the inspections, doing all the licensing, doing lots of the support that goes into, say, building a new building or building a new house, doing an addition on a house, doing an addition on a building, adding new electric or plumbing or water or sewer services. And so it's been a while since we actually updated our fees, our fee schedule, or did research on it to see whether or not our fee schedule actually matched up with the town's costs associated with all of those pieces. And no surprise if we haven't updated things in a while, that our fees don't necessarily reflect the true costs associated with that. So we voted to implement the fee study, which is basically restructures what those fees looks like, and brings it up to date to match better with what the town's actual costs are. So the first reading of that ordinance was was at the first meeting this month, and we had the second reading of that ordinance. For folks who've paid attention to this, we really, for most ordinances, unless it's an emergency, for some reason something has to get done quickly, we'll do 3 readings of the ordinance. It gives a chance for more people to come in and say something about it. It also gives the chance to make slight tweaks, should there be feedback or things along the way, rather than just a sort of a one and done process on an ordinance. So this is the second reading, means that there'll be a third reading. There'll be the first meeting in January that'll come up. But we've really received no feedback on this. Our fees will still probably be less than, but in line with most of the other municipalities in the area. We were significantly lower than Middletown and Dover and the folks around here. This brings us up a little bit, but still relatively low from a developer's perspective on what it actually takes to come in and do a piece of work here. I've paid impact fees. If you've done any additions on your house, you've paid either impact fees or permit fees and things like that. So a lot of folks know what that means. A couple of housekeeping things that we had to do this year. One was every year by code, we implement a senior citizen tax exemption. So this is a property tax exemption specific to the town's taxes. We can't provide any exemptions from like county taxes, but and what it does is it targets a reduced tax rate for fixed income or lower income seniors. The exact percentage could be adjusted, but for the most part, we are looking at is folks who have below an income of fixed income of around $35,000 for a property, that we will provide them a tax exemption on their property. There are a decent number of folks in our community who certainly that makes a big deal. While taxes are not that high, if you're on a fixed income and you don't have the opportunity to go out and earn additional funding or additional funds, certainly no one likes paying their tax bill. And so we do what we can to help those folks who would struggle under their tax burden. So every year the town has done this. It long predates me. We have updated what the income threshold for that is. We did that recently, but we are implementing that tax. This is for the 2022 property taxes. Another housekeeping thing that we did was we set the time and place for this year's election. So April 26th, it's going to be 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. We're bringing voting this year back to the town hall. So April 26th, 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. at town hall, we'll be voting for the municipal election. I believe I am the only one on the ballot this year. It is for one of the three at-large seats that we have here in town, and so it's actually my position. So I will certainly be registering and running for my seat again this year. And who knows, maybe if also we've had this happen a couple of times. If no one else registers, if there's only one person, we actually don't even hold the election. Last year we did not even hold an election because none of the seats were contested. But should there be a contested election, April 26th, 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. at Town Hall is where you're going to vote. And you'll hear more about that. The nice thing that we got to do this time, so if you would go back to the beginning of the pandemic, one of the things the town did was we tried to look at whether there was anything we could do to help support some of the small businesses in town that were going to be impacted by the shutdowns in the pandemic. And we actually created a small business loan program. A small business that was adversely impacted could apply for up to $3,500 as a loan from the town. And the deal was that if they made on-time payments for the first certain period of time, we would forgive the second half of the loan, basically. Now, the ARPA funding that we received from the federal government, one of the things that is an allowable use for that is actually to provide loan forgiveness for some things like this, because a lot of towns created loan programs. There were really only 3 applicants for this loan. Each one of them received $3,500. That was Sheridan's Irish Pub, the Yarn Maven, and Smyrna Cards and Gifts. And so a total of $10,500. The town was already going to forgive the first half of that, assuming that everyone was in good standing. And so what we did is we opted to use all of our, or some of our ARPA funding to repay those loans for those 3 small businesses. I don't know if they know that yet because we just voted on it. So if you know any of them, if you want to tell Karen or Sue or the Sheridans, but we'll certainly reach out and let them know that the town has voted to forgive that loan. 3 small businesses that have kept going, keep doing great things for folks here in our community, and we're happy to be able to use a little bit of those federal funds to forgive some of that loan for them. And then the last thing on tonight's agenda, which was never a fun thing, so we had to confirm the projected rates for our electric. So as folks know, the town of Smyrna is a utility provider. We provide electric services. That power, we actually purchase it through the co-op, and every year they send us out a thing that says this is what the purchase rates are going to be for this year. So it's the rates are, it's actually, we walked through it a little bit, and they talked about this quite a bit at our utility meeting. It's a fairly complicated document and sort of goes through lots and lots and lots of different aspects of how the rates are set, how they're passed on. Ultimately, what it means is that they're projecting a rate increase for this year. And now the rate that we're going to be buying at is still lower than the rate that we were paying in 2017, but it's now more equivalent to what we were paying in 2009. that doesn't really necessarily mean a lot because people don't know what the rates are that we're buying it from. Basically, if the rates are a little bit higher, that gets passed on to customers because we charge a rate. Now, we adjusted our rate study to accommodate for most of this. So, in theory, it is possible that there's a couple of dollar shift any given year up or down based on what we are buying the power for. Ultimately, those costs get passed on to the customers. So the projection is that our rates are going to go up a little bit this year. So that means that there's likely to be seen small increases in ultimately passed on to customers here in town, which no one ever likes to do. But the reality of doing business is that we've got to buy the power before we can send it on to anybody else. And so hopefully not very much. And obviously it fluctuates throughout the course of the year. Good years, rates go down. Bad years, rates go up. So those are the big items from tonight's agenda. It was actually a really pretty fast meeting. We had a lot of stuff in our executive committee that we talked about. But I'll just give you a quick update on the things that were from the first meeting that we missed. So one piece is there are a number of different properties here in our community that have been identified by the State Department of Housing as in need of some type of repair. And there's actually community development block grant money that the state and the county can get. Actually, it's the county gets it, flows through the state, to help people fix up their houses and do work on their homes. There is a backlog. There's more projects than they have money for. But in order for the county to apply for this money, we have to authorize them to do so on our behalf. So we did that back at the beginning of January. The other thing that we had a vote on or discussion around is down at Simon's Corner, there is going to need to be a new pump station. Right now, the existing pump station is not large enough to service the needs of Simon's Corner and some of the additional development that's going to be going on there, the apartment complex. So there's going to be a need to do a new pump station, and there's a variety of agreements that need to be enacted between the folks who own Simon's Corner and the properties that will ultimately be connected to that pump station. So going through that process, because there's going to be a lot more development in that area. That property's been slated for development for 20 years now. We're starting to see some movement on that. And so trying to get the agreements in place for what the pump station there will look like. And ultimately, what we want is to have all of the pump station, the utilities, the water, everything underground turned over to the town so that the town can maintain it, make sure that it is connected to and services and provides the backup and support services we need for the rest of the community. Right now, Simon's Corner is disconnected from the rest of the town. So part of this process is to connect it to the other services and make sure that we are providing as much, really we're talking about water and sewer at this point, but as much of the capacity as possible for the town residents that live down in that area. And then the last thing that we missed out on, actually there's two other things from January. There is going to be a redistricting process. So folks might know this, every 10 years after the census, the municipality is required to take a look at the council districts and realign them to create some proportionality or balance between the different districts. So we have 3 council districts in town. We also have 3 at-large members. The council is going to host a public meeting and seek feedback as well as review some potential options for how we could reapportion the town to meet the intent of the law, which is fair, more balanced representation of the citizens for their council districts. So that's going to be coming up. You'll hear more about that. We've got a special council meeting on next Monday to actually talk about some of these pieces. And the actual meeting date will be put out there as soon as it gets finalized for what the public meetings will look like. And then lastly, we actually authorized a donation of property. So it's 30 East South Street is technically the address. Smyrna Professional Properties, what people mostly know as the Health and Wellness Center, they own a piece of property across South Street that they utilize as a parking lot, and it's directly adjacent to multiple pieces of property that the town owns. And the intent is that they are going to donate that property to us in exchange for an easement, and the town is going to redevelop that property into a much larger, better maintained, better lit, better drained parking lot that can be used both for the folks in town as well as the folks from Smyrna Professional Properties. And in order to do that, we have to basically accept the donation, which we did earlier. We've been planning on this for a while. There's some municipal street aid and some additional funds that we have access to that can help pay for most of this project. There's a little bit of ARPA funding, I think, that we can attach to it as well. But it will make a much nicer and better parking lot for the Health and Wellness Center, for a lot of their staff, because one of the issues that they've always faced is not enough parking for that building, as well as a much larger, better municipal parking lot in the downtown. So hopefully that is a spring project for this year, assuming all goes well. I think we're still getting some of the Water Conservation District reviews and dealing with some of those things to make sure that the outflow for stormwater and things like that are exactly where they need to be. But I think most of that has been worked through, and hopefully this spring that project will get underway. Those are the big highlights. Sorry, it's 2 meetings in one, but those are the things that have been sort of being kicked around over the last couple of weeks. The next council meeting is going to be on February 7th. And we don't have any big agenda items for that one yet, but you never know what's going to appear. So that's it for me for tonight. Thanks, folks. If you have any questions, obviously reach out, and I will try and answer everything that I possibly can. Have a great night.